Hello everyone and welcome back to another Nintendo fan video. As you can see, I am here again in Animal Crossing and I have a few announcements today. First up, I want to say I'm going to be reducing the amount of Animal Crossing check-ins that I have. I'm only going to be doing them when a significant amount of stuff has been happening, instead of every 2 to 3 weeks. Also, this is the announcement and first episode of a new Animal Crossing series. I'm going to call it Animal Crossing New Horizons Design. For now, it's a work in progress title. But I'm going to be designing parts of my island for different themes and maybe hopefully giving you guys some tips while we go about that. So, today's episode is Rustic, and I'm going to be designing Eric's house. So, let's go over there now to explain how we're going to do this. And here we are at Eric's log cabin. Now you can see I've put it very near the campsite because the campsite is another good example of the rustic style, and we will be going through that. But today I want to design Eric's front yard in a very rustic style because of the log cabin outside of his house. And we're going to go over the different components to do that, and then I'm going to be placing the furniture. So let's start off right now with fencing. Okay, so you can see we are here in the fencing area, and I do have most of the fencing recipes, if not all. And what we want to be doing here is choosing a fence that very much fits the style of the home and a rustic style. And I will let you in on a hint now. Rustic is very wood involved, so we're going to want to use a lot of wood-based items. And so that goes as well with the fencing. So I don't really want to use either of these, although the hedges could be used for a certain garden feel, but a lot of these are very man-made. I want to go with something more natural. You could theoretically use something like the vertical board fence, simple wooden fence, lattice fence, but to me that's more of a civilized feel. I'm going to go with the country fence because that feels very rustic, it's very made out of wood, and it looks a lot like the log cabin. Next to decide on is a lot of the items you're going to want to use, and again this is going with a very wood-based feel because you want something rustic. So there's of course some good stuff like mossy garden rocks if you want to go in more of a stone direction like a Zen garden, but I do want to go with a more natural type feel. So going up here into the wood stylings, you can use stuff like this wooden chair, like those can work theoretically, or the wooden blocks, but I prefer to use things like that are you can see are made out of log. So we've got all the log sofas, the log chair, a wild log bench, lounge. These all feel very natural, if you ask me, and that's why I would like to use them. And there's also stuff like tiki torch bonfires, the campfires. Those can also give it a very natural feel. Lastly, I also kind of like to use stuff that's less natural and more man-made looking, but still gives off kind of a rustic feel. For example, this natural garden table, you can see it is actually made out of partially steel, but it has that wood surface that I think still gives off the rustic vibe. So I'm probably going to use that as well. So it's a lot of stuff like this where I want to use wood stuff, a lot of it more natural vibes, but also man-made. A brick oven is also a very good example of this. So yeah, those are generally what we want to do for the main furniture items. Now there's two other things I want to talk about before we get into actually building this area, which is seasonal items and also using more going for one specific direction. Now, first with the specific direction, I'm going for a wood feel because that's just kind of what I like because it goes well with a log cabin, I think. But when you're building something rustic, it could definitely also go in a different direction. If you want, you could branch off in kind of a bamboo forest, and that's still a natural vibe. It's just not as rustic as I think it could be, as well as a lot of the flower items and stuff. Like you could still get this very natural vibe, but we're just going for kind of more of a woods type feel. And then for seasonal recipes, you can see I have some of the acorn and pine cone recipes, the tree's bounty stuff, and these go very well with the style, especially some of these lamps and trees, the balancing toy. These all look very nice in my opinion. I haven't seen the maple leaf furniture, and I have seen the mush furniture. The mush furniture, I think, could definitely be good, but it's also more of a natural vibe than rustic. So you could definitely use mush furniture. That could probably work if you're going to specialize. That's another specialized area. And then with the maple leaf furniture, I haven't seen it. I'm guessing it's a similar thing, but I think these work very well with the type of woodsy feel we're going for without being too natural. Now, before we do get into building, I do want to mention one last kind of side tangent here, which is bridges and inclines. If you're going to have a bridge or an incline attached to a rustic vibe, I think there are certain things that you might want to go for compared to others. Now, in regards to bridges, I think a log bridge could definitely help you there if you're going for kind of an uncultivated, more natural vibe, if you're more on the natural side than the man-made side. Suspension bridge could also work quite nicely if you're going for that kind of vibe, but that's more on the man-made side than the log bridge, I think. The wooden bridge could work theoretically if it is what you want to go for. If you really want to heavily lean into the wood, the wooden bridge could work well. Definitely, I recommend not using the brick bridge or the iron bridge because those are extremely man-made. The stone bridge could work, again, if you're leaning more kind of into a Zen garden, that's perfect bridge to use. And the red Zen and the Zen. Now, I think if you're gonna go with one of these, I'd recommend going with Zen because of the more kind of chill color palette, shall we say. The red Zen bridge feels a little more man-made just because of the red, but the Zen just feels very nice and somewhat woodsy as well. And then that could also work for a Zen garden if you're going to do that. All right, moving into inclines. I don't actually have the menu, but I'm going to go to some of the inclines I have, and I will talk about those in just a moment. All right, so I can't actually pull up the incline menu, unfortunately, but we are just going to go through the menu here and talk about the different inclines. Now, if we're going for kind of more of a Zen garden feel with the rocky style, I think you should probably go with either a natural ramp or a stone staircase. I think those are both pretty nice because they give off a bit of a rocky feel, but they're also not too much necessarily. I don't recommend using the brick staircase, either of the steel staircases, sorry about that, or the blue plank or white plank ramps because all of them just give off, I think, too much of a man-made vibe. Of course, you can do whatever you want with this. I'm just giving my recommendations here for all of this, but I don't recommend using these. And lastly, we have the log staircase, which I'm standing on right now. I think this is the absolute perfect staircase if you're going for the wood rustic vibe. I just think that it gives off such a nice vibe. It's clearly made out of wood, and I don't know. I love the vibe that's coming from it. I definitely recommend using this one. Now, I'm sorry for so many little aspects. The last one we're going to cover is pathing, and then we will get into building it. Okay, so when it comes to paths, there aren't really that many options, but it's very open to interpretation. So I personally like to either keep it grass and then add little bits of a dark dirt path because I feel that very gives off that kind of woodsy vibe without going too much into it. I don't like using any of the really man-made paths, so I don't like terracotta, wooden, brick, stone, or arch tile. And then dirt path or sand path could both really be used, but I don't like using sand because I feel it gives off too much of a beach vibe, and I just prefer dark dirt to dirt. And this is something where you could definitely go into the custom designs, and there are so many different kind of rustic vibe paths. So there's definitely a lot of options there. But if you're going with the man-made ones, I recommend either just keeping it grass or using some dark dirt. All right, we've gathered all our materials, so let's begin. we are done. So it's a bit crowded here, and there's a few things I might like to change, but overall, I quite like the look of it. I hope you guys had some success with yours as well. I'm gonna move this tree really quick so you can fully see the entrance. And there we go. So overall, I'm quite happy with the result. I think it goes very nice with Eric's log cabin. And let me guys know what you think of the video. Hopefully I will be doing more of these soon as I can move some more villagers' houses. Anyways, again, I hope this helped you. And other than that, have a great day.